I mean, are United's problems blindingly obvious? And if so, why can't he see them, Gabby?
Because he's stubborn, and if he's come out and said himself that he's not going to change, and he does change and it works, then obviously people will say, well, have you done that 6 months ago? Wouldn't be in this situation. So it's a stubbornness for me, and everyone, even if you're not big on your football, will say Manchester United, the 3-4-3 is not working. Just change it to a 4-3-3, whatever way you want to play. The three midfielders, Mainu sitting there, outstanding footballer, and he's coming on for 10, 15 minutes. Very hard. They finished the game with Mbumo as right wing back.
Yeah.
That says it all.
Let's get more on this now then, shall we? Talk and rumours that Gareth Southgate could be the next Manchester United boss. Here's talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, Alex Crook. Morning, Crookie.
Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, boys.
What is it, April Fool's Day? Gareth Southgate, Manchester United manager? Not going to happen, is it?
Probably not, but he is a name that is on Ineos's list. The information we have at talkSPORT is that Sir Jim Ratcliffe himself has held direct talks with Gareth Southgate in the not-too-distant past, just to gauge if he is willing to return to management. Now, this isn't necessarily a sign that a change is imminent in the dugout at Old Trafford. In fact, the Manchester United hierarchy are doubling down in their support of Ruben Amorim. Ratcliffe feels he needs more time, more of this season, before he can be truly judged. But I've got to say, the groundswell of opinion amongst Manchester United fans appears to be turning in the wake of that defeat at the G-Tech at the weekend, for the reasons really that Jamie O'Hara articulated. Amorim has been there for the best part of a year now. It will be cheaper, actually, for Manchester United to sack him once he celebrates his first year anniversary in terms of compensation. But in 33 Premier League games, they've taken 34 points. Now, that is relegation form, yet to win back-to-back Premier League games, as Gabby mentioned, under his stewardship. So it's no surprise that Manchester United are just casting their net now to see what is available. The irony is that Gareth Southgate was considered when Ruben Amorim got the job. He was a name that Dan Ashworth, the sporting director, who didn't last 5 minutes at Old Trafford, was advocating, and the rest of the hierarchy didn't agree at that moment in time. So it would represent a little bit of a climb down, and we don't know if Gareth Southgate even wants to return to management in such a high-pressured job. The other names that I've been given in the last 24 hours or so as potential replacement, Oliver Glasner, who plays that same system at Crystal Palace and clearly plays it to much better effect. They're 18 games unbeaten. They're riding high in the Premier League. And, of course, they're FA Cup holders. And Andoni Iraola down at Bournemouth, I would suggest this is a massive step up, maybe too big a step up for him. But the list of stellar candidates are out there.
Crookie, step up for him? Did I hear that right? Step down for him, surely.
He's manager of Bournemouth, Jeff, with the greatest respect.
Where are Bournemouth sitting in the table at the moment?
Yeah, that doesn't mean that Manchester United are not a bigger club.
I'm not saying they're not a bigger club, but, maybe Manchester United fans are slightly deluded about the appeal that managing that club has got, because managers will look at the reputations that have been wrecked by going in and trying to manage Manchester United.
Yeah, I take that point on board, but Thomas Tuchel was still keen before taking the England job. I think Mauricio Pochettino has always wanted to be Manchester United manager.
Well, neither of them have been, though, have they?
Well, no, and it's obviously not the team it once was, but I think there would still be an attraction in terms of waking up this sleeping giant, which has been dozing off for a long time now. But the point I was making is when you look at the list of potential replacements for Ruben Amorim, there's not a standout candidate, is there? There isn't a stellar name. I think it'd be the same if Chelsea tried to replace Enzo Maresca, and obviously they've come out and said that they're backing him until the end of the season, despite their poor start. So it's a problem for the hierarchy, but I think it's a problem of their own making, because Ruben Amorim, Gabby mentioned it, they knew when they appointed him that he was wedded to this system. They knew that he wouldn't deviate from this system. And they knew, and Dan Ashworth made this point, as far as I understand it, that their squad wasn't built to play this style of football. Only one team in Premier League history have won the title playing the way that Ruben Amorim wants to play, and that was Chelsea under Antonio Conte.
Crookie, you said earlier, we mentioned it loads of times, 34 points in 33 games. Won 9, drawn 7, lost 17, minus 14 goal difference. Only 5 clean sheets in those games as well. And when I watched them, Crookie, and I watched them on the weekend, I'm like, you're just not a good team. Individually, you've got good players, Fernandes and Mbumo, Cunha, but defensively, mate, Dorgu doesn't scare you going forward as a wing-back. Neither does Dallo. Luke Shaw can't defend. And if he takes a centre-half off again for another centre-half, I'm going to switch my TV off, mate.
Yeah, and do you know what? I was speaking to a coach at an EFL club who's also a Manchester United fan in the wake of the Derby defeat a couple of weeks ago, and he couldn't get his head around that. Why? In every game, 60 to 70 minutes, he changes one of the centre-backs, because he made the point to me, and he's a former defender himself.
Yep.
If you're playing in a back three, that's the one position in the pitch where you're not using that much energy. He did it again at the weekend. He picked the wrong team, Gabby. You've mentioned Kobbie Mainoo. Everybody thought this would be his opportunity with Casemiro suspended. He goes for Ugarte instead. Ugarte's got qualities, but he's not got the legs for me to play in that system in the Premier League. Lenny Yoro has been one of the shining lights at the start of this season. He finds himself on the bench. Harry Maguire comes in. So it's all very muddled. And actually, when you get people like Gary Neville coming out on television and pointing out that Mason Mount ending the game as a left wing back is not the recipe for success. Right. You've got Wayne Rooney talking about the fact the soul's been ripped out of Manchester United. The pressure is being applied now. And I would go on record as saying if he was manager of any other team in the Premier League and he picked up so few points, he wouldn't be in a job anymore. I think he's very lucky that he's got the backing, not only the hierarchy, but actually a lot of the match-going supporters. And I'm not sure what evidence there is to suggest that this team is moving forward under Ruben Amorim.
I mean, Crook, just finally, we all saw the pictures as well of him at Brentford at the weekend, looking down at the floor. Do you think there's a chance that he will walk away from this?
Well, from what I'm told from insiders at Carrington, he's a very different character now around the training ground to the one that walked in, obviously with his reputation very high, a spring in his step from Sporting Lisbon. I think he has underestimated how big a challenge this was going to be. I think he's underestimated the Premier League with the fact he's so stubborn and so married to this system. Managers don't tend to walk away from contracts. I think if you look at it, he came out of the weekend, he said he's not concerned about his position. He's the manager until he's told that he isn't the manager anymore. I think that's a little bit arrogant from Ruben Amorim to say that he's not concerned about his position, having picked up so few wins, so few points. At some point, there needs to be some kind of scrutiny put on his record, because this was the season, having invested a lot of money in the summer, when Manchester United were expected to be challenging at least for a European place. At the moment, they're looking over their shoulders towards the bottom three. And you look at the teams that have come up, they've got Sunderland at Old Trafford next. I wouldn't be putting any money on Manchester United beating Sunderland.
Jeff, can I just say as well, Crookie, I was at the Crystal Palace game for talkSPORT doing co-coms, Aston Villa versus Crystal Palace, and I was like astonished at how organised Crystal Palace were defensively. Every time Watkins tried to make a run, 2-on-1. Rodgers gets the ball, 2 on him. That's how you play that system. I look at Manchester United in the second goal. De Ligt's looking in no man's land. The ball goes over his head. Defenders don't know who to pick up the main striker as the 3 centre-halves. They don't know how to play that formation. And if you don't understand it, look at Haaland's goal when he got put through. Luke Shaw's not picking you up. The 3 centre-halves don't know which one of the attacking players to pick up. It's a shambles to watch.
Well, the first 2 goals they conceded at the weekend were an absolute shambles. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes misses another penalty. Who knows what would have happened had that have gone in. But again, one of the other things he said at the weekend, Ruben Amorim, was that when they win, it's not the system's fault. And when they don't, everyone blames the system. We don't know, because you don't win enough games, Ruben.
You win when there's 10 men.
For us to ask that question. And exactly, even when they do win Manchester United, it's unconvincing. They're a team who's still playing moments, and that's been the case for a long time now. I think this manager is bang under pressure.
Crookie, thank you very much.
Top man, Crookie.
Cheers, guys.
Andy's just texted. He said, "Morning, Jeff and Gab, regular to the show. Jeff, are you still predicting Man United for a top 4 finish?" Oh, yeah. Jokes aside, why does Ruben Amorim move 3 or 4 players when he makes a substitution? One of the back 3 played in 4 different positions within 20 minutes. And it must be time for Brian and Mbeumo to be on penalties. I think you are spot on with that. Absolutely time for Bruno Fernandes to be moved off them. That's the short.
The third goal, and Mbeumo's playing right wing back. Yeah. And then can't make a tackle, the counter attack.
Keeper's got to stop that, by the way.
I know. Well.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.